best use of the word pig is by a guy that we know at the track, and his name is Omar. He's a long shot player. He's constantly extolling his horses to continue running by yelling, "Stay with it, you pig! Stay there, you pig!" I mean, where you're being demeaning. It's almost like you rooting for Florida State, Lubie. Where you're just absolutely horrified at the possibilities of how badly your team is going to fade, even when they're well in command of the game. And that's one use of it. But then at the same time, you'll have guys cursing a horse in the very same race, screaming, "Don't die, you pig!" Even at a strip club, you don't hear the word pig employed as often as you do at the track. And the various uses of it, I think, are kind of fascinating. I'm surprised some English language professor hasn't studied track vernacular.
I just love that people. I've heard you guys talk about, that fucking pig, but I haven't heard people using it to root on a horse that hasn't lost yet.
Yeah.
You haven't lost?
Keep going, you pig.
Why is it a pig before it loses? What if it wins by like 3 lengths?
Because the horse was a pig, or it wouldn't be a long shot. Very, very creative use of the word pig. And, part of the racetrack vernacular. I don't know why it isn't a course offered in Florida schools.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Good morning to Rosalina, one of our favorites, already up and at 'em. Got off to a little bit of a late start. Did you get that final shutter nailed on the windows, Lubie? Now that you're a homeowner, you did? All right. What are you using? Plywood? You using that metal stuff? The metal stuff never worked, did it? I mean, you were drilling a million holes and everything, and then you would put all the shutters up, and the thing would hit somewhere else, and you would feel a little bit foolish. You would try to rationalize, yeah, it was better to be safe than sorry. No, it wasn't. You ended up doing like 10 hours of meaningless labor. Then the one time it hits is the time that you don't do anything about it because you figure it's going to hit somewhere in the middle of the state, and then boom! A last-minute change. How can you believe how this track changed? They have hurricane coverage all over the place, and of course, we feel for the people. This would be the northwestern part of the state. Is it hitting Tallahatchie, your former hometown? Mike Lubie Lubitz, how are you, by the way?
I'm alive. It seems like it's going right at Tallahassee. This storm seems freaking weird because people have it going into the water and coming back. Like I've never seen that in my time in Florida. This storm is really freaking strange. I hope it doesn't hit the Panhandle too hard, but it feels like it's going a dead red for the Panhandle.
And they've been hammered by a couple of them in recent times. Not necessarily an omen, or a good omen for people that were thinking about moving out of South Florida. I've been following this for over 40 years. We at first really ignored all of the warnings. They used to have that one shot of the stop sign blowing in the wind from Hurricane Camille, which was in the 60s. And everybody would be saying, well, geez, you better be ready for this. And nobody cared. And we would shrug it off, make jokes about it. And then, boom, Andrew hit 1992. People started taking it a little bit more seriously. I genuinely, aside from the fact that Ron DeSantis is our governor and that the state is largely comprised of hillbillies, and that the legislators in Tallahassee seem to be well immersed, with their feet firmly planted in the Stone Age. I love the state of Florida. I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting on my walks of life, especially the last year or so, because you're thinking, geez, was it a good move to be in Florida? Do you really want to stay here, is the question. You have all kinds of crises that we're going to be facing, which are only escalating. Insurance doesn't figure to get any cheaper after another hurricane hits the state. You have companies that are just pulling up their stakes and say, I don't want no part of this, right? Like they're in a submission hold in a professional wrestling match. No, ref, I don't want any more. And in general, I have to think, it was a good move. 40 some odd years here, I managed to launch a reasonably decent broadcasting career. Certainly had a good time doing it. Could I have done better had I maybe ventured out and been a little bit more ambitious and gone to New York to try to seek a position? I don't know. Maybe I never would have got started in the first place. I was in Los Angeles, and I thought, well, geez, it'll be years before I get a decent job here at some reasonably solid position in broadcasting. A guy told me, hey, why don't you try Miami? You can go there and get a job right away. You'll be on the air the minute you walk into a station. And sure enough, that turned out to be the case. Now, what he didn't tell me they didn't pay shit back then in the day, and it was going to take a while and a certain amount of inventive thinking to get around to the point where you could actually make a living doing this. And then things sort of, like they do with everything. I mean, eventually Florida started catching up to the rest of the pack. Although you would have to say we're still woefully behind in many areas. Would you agree? But what are you going to do, Lubie? I followed the sun. Now, the panic that is usually, I mean, part of the fanfare of any kind of hurricane coverage, they already have, and I'm watching CNN trying to get a little more of a national perspective, and they have the usual thing where people that you've never seen as on-air reporters are standing in the middle of the ocean, just holding up like a flashlight, and they've got a microphone that actually has like a wire attached to it.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, where's the cameraman? Got to be in very perilous circumstances, and it's a lot of panic before the actual event occurs, which I think is due to happen. Like within the hour, the landfall of this Hurricane Idalia. So we're hoping for the best for everybody. But no, do I regret moving to Florida with the hurricanes and all of that stuff? No. People ask me all the time. Was it a good place to spend the majority of your life? I would have to say yes. Lubie, you've been here your entire life, so you don't know anything different. But we do feel the, I guess, anxiety that goes along with a hurricane hitting any part of the state. Although I know, like a lot of you that are fans of ours in South Florida, you're thinking, good thing we're off the hook. You don't have to worry about too much. Although, Lubie, that was very good of you. I know, first time homeowner. Well, did you own you owned a condo or something before this?
We had a townhouse, and it came with shutters, and I shuttered a couple times. This house is going to be interesting. This house doesn't have shutters, so I don't know what the fuck we're going to do.
I would just abandon ship and hope for the best. I mean, that would be the way to go. But yeah, that's everybody's riveted to that right now, and trying to figure out, hopefully that they'll be the least amount of damage and loss of life and loss of property and all the other things that go along with it. My horoscope not particularly favorable for doing a show today here, Lubie. Before we get into our regular agenda, says this: I'm a Cancer sign. Something that strikes you as amazingly funny, Lubie, and this is not good, especially since we started this new no filter thing. Something that strikes you as being amazingly funny is likely to be seen by some of your friends as rudely offensive. So maybe it would be best if you did not laugh too loud. Sadly, your Cancer sense of humor is not shared by everyone.
Okay.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, maybe we ought to be careful with the jokes here, but that's where we're going to start. Of course. All right, so last year we had the whole big thing, and we got into it with Tony a little bit, who's going to join us later on, Tony Segreto, the great Tony Segreto with Old School, and he was upset with me. Certainly there's an amount of being facetious that goes along with anything that we say here on this show. We don't wish anybody, any ill. I don't know. Even Nick Saban, right? Do I care? I mean, if Nick Saban's living a good life, does it matter to me? No. I mean, he's living a good life by any standard. So, when we're taking shots at somebody, it's not personal. It's not meant to be personal, strictly from an observational standpoint. Now, last year, we had the insufferable exit of Serena Williams from the U.S. Open. She'd announced her retirement. As we were talking about, she went Gwyneth Paltrow on this thing. She wouldn't even call it a retirement. Well, I'm evolving. No, you're not. You're out of shape. You haven't been able to win a match against a quality player in a long time. You're hanging around way too long, way past your normal value as an athlete. You're still capable of beating some of the scrubs on the tour, but you're never going to win another championship. It's time to hang it up, Serena. That would have been the way to address it at the pre-U.S. Open press conference. I hope I can win a match or two, and if I can, that'll be great. But I'm not expecting to do much here because I'm finished. I'm over. I'm done. The whole Serena thing is kaputski. So she goes out there and, wow, I mean, she plays a couple of actual thrilling matches only because the competition that she used to annihilate in the opening couple of rounds of the tournament had caught up with her. And she ended up actually against a woman who was just fading badly, who was the number 2 seed. And that became very deceptive because she beat this girl named Cornet, who somehow had evolved to number 2 in the world, and yet nobody had ever seen her win a match. It was kind of like the Golden Boy, Arnold Skolin in wrestling, Lubie, where you never saw the guy win a match, and yet he was the Golden Boy.
Yeah.
It's like you can't. Well, what are we talking about here? Eddie Miles, remember Eddie Miles with the golden arm, Lubie? Nah, he was before
That
your
one I
time.
don't know. Yeah.
Detroit Pistons, man, what a shooter! This guy was great. Never gets mentioned among the great shooters of all time. The great Eddie Miles, the golden arm, and that was when there were less players in the league. So, if you were a fan of the NBA, you had a pretty good familiarity with virtually everybody, which I would think is far from the case today. But anyway, she comes out there with the wrestling outfits. As we said yesterday, she looked like she was the fabulous Moolah coming into the ring, and getting ready to go ahead and go best of three falls television time limit with somebody that had just flown in from the Midwest to catch a payday, and she ended up winning a couple of matches. Then played that sort of thriller against Ayla Tomjanovic. Finally got knocked out. Left as ungraciously as you possibly could. Everybody's fawning all over her. They don't even care about the opponent who's crying after she won. So, and it was ugly. I just thought, she's entitled to her moment. I wouldn't deny her that, but was she playing for the love of the game? No, it was strictly the Serena egomaniac show. And, so I didn't really feel as comfortable with that as I would Venus Williams getting a wild card entry into the U.S. Open. This was her, I want to say it was either her 23rd or 24th U.S. Open. Let me think about that. 23rd, yeah, it must have been her 23rd U.S. Open. So she's in the first round, and she's in there against a qualifier, a young woman named Greet Minnen, who had to play 3 qualifying matches to get to the point where she was in the first round, which was very significant for her because I didn't realize the prize money is larger than it's ever been in the U.S. Open. And they are celebrating the fact that somehow Billie Jean King talked people into giving equal pay at the U.S. Open, equal purse money. I didn't realize this went that far back. They've been doing it equal pay for the men and the women in the U.S. Open for 50 years, Louie. I thought that was a much more recent development, didn't you? 50 years they've been getting equal pay. Now, the men would complain, hey, why are we playing 3 out of 5 sets? They're playing 2 out of 3. Yeah. We're killing ourselves. We have to plan in some of these guys, so you get involved in a couple of 5-setters early in the tournament. Does that not compromise your chances of winning the whole thing? Of course it does. And it's very possible because of the parity that there is in men's and women's tennis today, all sports for that matter. You simply have more excellent players than you used to at any period of time in the history of the sporting life. So a much more difficult task. Is it fair that the women get the same money? I mean, it would be a popular position to take, but the men, have a legitimate case that maybe they're working a lot harder to get to that championship. But that being said, I don't have a problem with that. I'm fine with it. I think, it was probably something that was overdue. I didn't realize it happened 50 years ago, and a big celebration. Billie Jean King, I mean, how much more could she do for women's sports to be an advocate for women's sports? The only person I know that's a bigger advocate for women's sports is our friend Jim Sarney. Who's constantly on our back about ignoring things that go on the distaff side, as they say. All right, so Venus is in this match against Greet Minnen. It's a nighttime feature match, Arthur Ashe Court. And, so they're taking center stage, and they're the prelude to the first appearance of the defending champion. And for now, I guess he still is the number 1 player in the world officially, Carlos Alcaraz, although he's about to be surpassed by Djokovic, regardless, I think, of the results of this tournament. He is defending champion, so he's defending a lot of points there. So I guess he doesn't have nearly as much to gain. And I think Djokovic actually eclipsed him in the cockamamie scheme. We talked about this. I mean, what's more complex in terms of permutations of math? The rankings in tennis, the way they compile them, or the quarterback rating in NFL football? Or any of this other stuff, these new modern stats that they have, the analytics that everybody's looking at, that as soon as somebody quotes one, I have no idea what they're talking about half the time. But in this case, however they establish the rankings, Djokovic is going to be number 1. But the number 1 guy in everybody's heart right now is Carlos Alcaraz, the hottest player on the tour. So it's the prelude to that. You would like to see them set the stage. Maybe it'd be great if Venus could win a match. She's in a position where you would think that she's in there with a shot. Nobody's ever heard of Greet Minnen, except maybe the 3 girls that she beat in qualifying. And just to make it into the first round, Lubie, now that there's equal pay, well, what was this worth to this girl? Greet Minnen was guaranteed $81,000 just for making it into the first round. So if she went in there and was just a sacrificial lamb to Venus Williams in a moment of glory for Venus as they try to perpetuate the greatness of her career, and no one would denounce How good? I mean, Venus Williams. It's been a long time. You had her finished a long time ago, but you weren't that far off, to be honest. And she was clearly on the downside of a career that included 49 titles.
Wow.
She won what, 4 Wimbledons, something like that. Let me see. She 5 Wimbledons, 2 U.S. Opens. She was in the finals of the Australian twice, and the French Open once. In doubles, she won 4 Australians, 2 French, 6 Wimbledon double titles, and 2 U.S. Open titles in doubles also.
Jeez.
So accomplished across the board. I mean, great player. It's been a long time since she's really been in the glamour spotlight. But you can respect what the love of the game. Look, Andy Murray's still playing. Is he going to win the title this year? No, but you respect the fact that this guy doesn't need to be playing tennis. He's had like 4 hip replacements, and he's out there playing. He's winning a couple of matches. He usually gets to the second round. Maybe with some luck, he gets into the third round, bows out, tips his cap to the crowd, and you're thinking, that's great. Stan Wawrinka, another guy that's kind of come back. He doesn't need to be playing tennis anymore. Looked like his career was over. He won a couple of slams, had a nice career, was always in the shadow of his countryman, Roger Federer. And, who wouldn't be in Federer's shadow? Even to be in Federer's shadow as a tennis player, still, it was a distinction of some significance there. But he's playing, and you say to yourself, okay, good, he won a match. You applaud that, and you're thinking, good, there are people out there that actually do this for the love of the sport, that aren't just saying that so that they can cash big fat paychecks, and in the meantime they could care less about the whole thing. But Venus, I mean, is a shot fighter at this point. She came out there, she really did. She looked like Butterbean Esh, going in there in a heavyweight championship fight. I'll never forget, and I've told this story many times, going out to Las Vegas with every dime that I could put together to bet on Larry Holmes against Muhammad Ali when Ali was on this senior tour that he was unfortunately continue to work while maybe only enhancing the physical damage that was being done to him, and the onset of Parkinson's, which I don't know. I mean, does that get initiated when your head is getting compressed like it was with Ali?
It doesn't help.
Yeah. He had all these bogus decisions too late in his career. Jimmy Young clearly beat him. They gave it to Ali. Ken Norton beat him. Yankee Stadium, they gave the decision to Ali. People were getting a little tired of it. And he goes in there against Larry Holmes after a layoff, and people were begging him. The fight doctor still tells a story. Well, he wouldn't if he was alive. But to his grave, he was telling a story about how he begged Ali not to take this fight. And he's getting the shit just kicked out of him. Holmes, after throwing every punch, is turning to the referee. And I believe the ref might have been Carlos Padilla, who was famous for allowing fights to go on. I don't put it on him, but I think it might have been. And he's begging him, please. He'll hit Ali with a jab. I don't know if you remember this. And then he would turn to the referee and go, hey, could you stop it? I'm going to kill this guy. And he was in there. And that's kind of how Venus looked in this match yesterday. It was just, it was so sad to see somebody. It was Joe Willie on the Rams helmet. It was Johnny Yu with a lightning bolt on his helmet as he put it on there and threw another pick. It was, Ishtar for Warren Beatty, where the guy just ends up making a movie that is such a bomb. I mean, it'd be like if you opened a restaurant, Lubie, and nobody came for the first 2 nights, and you realized this isn't going to work. Venus did not have it and got smoked by this Greet Minin, 6-1 and 6-1, and the scores, as much as they indicate a blowout, didn't even really represent how bad of a performance it was by Venus Williams in this particular match. Real serious ugliness. But yeah, I mean, is that the way to go out? I mean, she still didn't say that she was finished. Is there you would see no evidence in this particular match last night that Venus Williams had any chance of having any significance in the game of tennis again as a competitor. I mean, if she wants to play, that's fine. She wants to go out there and hit some with Serena, great. Go to the park. But my cleaning lady would have beaten her yesterday, and she doesn't play tennis.
Yeah, exactly.
She was asking me what this racket was. What do I do with this yesterday? She was in the house. What do you? I mean, do you have to know when it's time? 20,000 people are showing up to see this. They're paying money. They want to pay homage to Venus Williams. That's fine. I applaud her career, all of her accomplishments, overcame a lot. I mean, two young black girls from Compton, California, become the greatest tennis players in female tennis history, women's tennis history, or among them, certainly in consideration with anybody. Serena, you would have to say, what, number one all time?
I think Serena's the best, and it's funny, people aren't going to want to do this, but I would put Venus top 5. I mean,
Yeah, I think you would have to.
she was in the era of Serena. If not for Serena, she would have won a lot more.
That's right. I mean, a lot of her losses in majors and slams in the finals were to Serena, her sister.
I get it, Graf and Navratilova. And then
She seemed more likable, though, too, than Serena. For me.
She was more fun. Yeah. She wasn't a jerk off like Serena was, but I would put her top. I mean, Everett, I know there's the mix. I would put Venus. If you look at her accolades, her winning and her longevity, a lot like longevity, especially in tennis, is
she's 42 or 43 years old. I think she's
rare.
22.
I mean, the last, I said it 10 years ago, the last 6 years, she's been sort of a non-factor, but okay, so for 15 years, she was really good.
It's kind of fun, to see her show up for an event, and you're thinking, well, maybe she can still play a little bit. But this was, if this wasn't the end, then you need to start. They started playing the Jim Morrison Doors song there. This is the end.
Oh no,
my special friend. Just kind of a sad song, really. Cancel my subscription to the resurrection, my friends.
Oh my God.
Probably the greatest line in rock and roll history, no? Would you say? Cancel my subscription to the resurrection. Send my credentials to the house of detention. I got some friends inside. Anyway, I was singing that song while I was watching Venus. It was so painful, you couldn't wait for it to end. They did their best to kind of poo-poo it. Chris Everett was saying, well, maybe she can get in shape. No, it's not happening, Chris. We love you. You're a doll, but we love everything about what you did in tennis. So happy that you're healthy. But to stand in front of a camera and tell us, try to convince us there was any chance that off this performance that Venus Williams was going to come back, I'm with you finally, Lubie. They put the nail in the coffin. The flowers are in the punch. Venus Williams should not appear under these circumstances again, unless it's in an exhibition, Lubie. To sell that as a match, what was really kind of a disgrace. So the qualifier moves on. She made herself like another 40,000 just for winning that match.
Look, I get the love of the game stuff. I understand, but okay, why would you want to go out there and look like I don't go play for fun? Like you can go in these. There's now leagues for older people that people go and watch. Like
a pickleball exhibition. Do something.
Why is it like I look again and it's Segreto defends this. It's their choice. Do it, and that's fine. Or Mayo, it's either Mayo or Segreto. One of them says they can do it, and they can obviously. But like, I'm from the psyche standpoint, I'm curious why they'd want. Like, why would you want to put yourself? People around her got to be like no one's telling her Venus. Like no, like she can't tell she's losing 6-1 to a quali. 6-1, 6-1.
It wasn't even a 6-1 loss, Lubie. I mean, there would have been one thing if she, looked good doing it, which is possible, right? Or if she was playing like the number one seed and. Because she had a wild card entry into the tournament. I mean, I'm not sure how exactly this was set up, but what was she doing playing a qualifier when, in essence, she didn't really have the credentials of a qualifier?
Exactly.
She's ranked 500th in the world. So, the qualifier, Greet Minin, at least is like ranked 97th. And
oh, wow.
As we said, had won 3 matches just to get into the tournament. And, was hungry, scratching and clawing. And she's got to go in there, a daunting task of taking on this legend, Venus Williams. And then you're watching Venus out there, and it's, oh, my God. I honestly, that you would have wanted them to, just pull her off the track there. Like a vaudeville act would have been yanked right off the stage. She may as well have gone out there with, a blindfold and taken the last drag of a cigarette. People were screaming, come on, Gary Gilmore, you can do it. Shake them off. I mean, it literally was like putting somebody in front of a firing squad last night. But that's the way it ended. If that's the way it ends, it's kind of a sad image. It's requiem for a heavyweight, my friends. It's I could have been a contender. Unbelievable. But, that was a sad ending and very, very tough to watch. It became difficult to watch, Louis, to see somebody stagger around like that was once so brilliant. And a long time ago dominated women's tennis and kind of, revolutionized the game a little bit, but with her aggressiveness. Although, Martina had kind of pioneered that style before that, but Venus came along and really enhanced it and was great. And seemed to be a much more gracious version of the Williams sisters, certainly than Serena. All right, Jason Cole going to join us here. Is that what we're looking at, Louie?
At 8:35.
Oh, 8:30. I thought you said 7:35.
8:35.
Okay, all right. So we'll have that coming up later on. Jason Cole going to join us. A couple of other things. I mean, the wild card chase. Wow. I mean, you got to get the derisive Mexican whistle out there. I'm not sure that is even clean enough for streaming and non-terrestrial broadcast sites. But yeah, in essence, we're done, right? 11-2 last night against the Rays, talking about the wild card chase, and now 3 games back of the third spot for the wild card. The Marlins appear to be sinking quickly. You talk about the SS Minnow, man. I mean, this thing is shipwreck happening right now in front of us. The Rays, a very good team. They were breezing along at like 2-1 in the sixth. Sandy Alcantara on a mound, looking like he had resurrected the form that he had when he was a Cy Young Award winner last year. And we've been waiting for this all season to kind of manifest itself in at least a little bit of an elongated streak. And then he ends up getting shelled. I don't know if it wasn't as badly as the final score indicated. I think he ended up giving up 4 runs altogether, but he gets knocked out of there, and it was downhill from that point on. 11-2, the Marlins go down. As I've been saying, I'm a fan of the expanded wild card. I'm normally appalled by the bastardizing of playoff systems in professional sports. You realize, okay, you were looking at playoff systems when there were like 8 teams in each league in Major League Baseball. Imagine that, Louis. There were 8 teams in each league, 16 teams in all. This is what I grew up with. And you had the American League champion and the National League champion. Whoosh, they met in the World Series.
Yeah.
That was it. That's when I grew up with it, so it expands slowly, and you're thinking, is this really good for the game? Are we watering this thing down? Is it a matter of time before all teams are in the NCAA tournament? Do we really need that? People would point and say, well, Fairleigh Dickinson would have been there if they only had 50 teams, and that's true. And they scored a magnificent upset and, became a team that was very, very popular until they ran into what? Another juggernaut in FAU, Florida Atlantic, which we talked about yesterday after meeting Dusty May. That interview, by the way, with Dusty May on the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show will air tomorrow at 12 o'clock. That's worth catching if you're a sports fan.
Yeah, he was great.
Just, get a little insight into what was happening there at Florida Atlantic University. And, without saying so in so many words, you get the feeling, man, I mean, that these guys were able to have that level of success while up against it. I mean, talk about against all odds, where other schools, he described it perfectly. He said the transfer portal thing is not a recruiting episode. It's not a recruiting endeavor. It's strictly a bidding war. Imagine that's what it's come to. Now, that may have been recruiting back in the day also with certain players, but it wasn't the case with like that many players, I don't believe. I don't know. How many players on the average college basketball team do you think were getting money to play for the school?
Oh, I mean, I think that.
And it was not anything new. I mean, I still never forget when I mentioned this guy a few times, relatively obscure player, except to those that knew him on Long Island. The great Dennis Duval, who went to Syracuse. I would say he arrived at the Cuse in the 1972, 71, 72, somewhere around there. Went to the Final Four there with the Jimmy Lee team in 1974. And, it was an exciting college player. Didn't really have much of a career in the pros. Ended up becoming, I think, like a police chief or something in Syracuse. But he showed up on campus. I mean, this was a kid from Long Island that, I don't know, it wasn't like he was from one of the wealthy areas. And he showed up in like a Ferrari the first day that he was on campus. And you thought, well, that's kind of interesting. He must have saved up all that money he made being a lifeguard.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, this stuff's been going on. We know that, right? I mean, O.J. Simpson, you don't think he was getting greased by the people at USC to come there as a running back when he really loved the San Francisco area? Well, it wouldn't have been a bad move for him. But yeah, it was interesting because Dusty May was saying that, just a straight out bidding war. You go to somebody's, visit, a person, a kid's house in the transfer portal, and you say, I got $1 million for you. What do you want? And if you say, well, I'd love to, come and play for you there, Coach K, but, $1 million's just not going to do it. Maybe you could talk to some of those lawyers there in North Carolina and see if you can't come up with a few bucks more. But, yeah, that was interesting. So that's going to air at 12 o'clock. Now, getting back to the baseball thing, what would you consider like a baseball purist? Somebody that is appalled by the idea that you have like added wild card teams now in the postseason?
Yeah, of course.
Appalled.
Yeah.
Here was Bob Costas. Costas. I always thought. I mean, yes, that last couple of games, the last couple of games he did, I think he toned it down for like the last one because there were so many complaints that it sounded like one of the great voices I believe in baseball broadcasting history. He's not going to be given the consideration because it doesn't have the history behind it of like a Vin Scully or any of the really big time baseball voices, Red Barber, Mel Allen, Ernie Harwell. I mean, all of these legendary voices that you had over the years in Major League Baseball, and almost everybody had their favorite local announcer. I don't know. Did you have a favorite announcer growing up, even though you didn't have a baseball team here? Let me.
Bob Costas was always my favorite.
He was a great baseball announcer. I believe that.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, he was everything. He was, I think, the #1 football guy, and he was
Yeah.
great with the NFL. He was NBA and NBC, which was my calling card growing up, was Bob Costas. And baseball, he was the lead guy. Like for those three sports, he was the lead guy for most of my youth. So Bob Costas was like literally, I got to meet him twice at the station, and he was a really sweet dude. He let me sit there for an hour listening to him do the show that we both liked, the show that you'd like to do something like, the show he did on, it was both HBO and on the radio, the conversation show he did.
Yeah.
I got to sit there when
he had a great interview show on the radio. He was fantastic.
It was also on HBO, and I got to sit with him for like an hour and just talk with him. Like he was a good dude, and I really liked. I know you've made fun of him a little bit, and I know he gave the Marlins a lot of shit in that World Series because
that was it. Yeah, I mean, is that a baseball purist? I mean, the purist would be screaming. I mean, he was fetching and crying. I mean, that 1997 World Series about how the Marlins bought their team. With their $50 million payroll. It did seem like he was on meth, though, when he was doing those last year, the playoff games. Something was wrong with him. He even admitted it, right? But a great baseball voice.
Yes.
And yet, he couldn't stand the fact that, that this wild card team was going to win the World Series. I don't know. Did he have an investment in the Cleveland Indians that year? I'm not sure. But it seemed extraordinarily biased. His commentary on the World Series, which was maybe the only black mark on an otherwise brilliant career until, it was wonderful when he came back on the Major League Baseball Network with Jim Cott. I thought those were some great broadcasts. That was one of the few times where you said, geez, you know what? The fact that these guys are doing a game, I don't care if it's, the Twins against Kansas City. I'm probably going to enjoy watching it because the commentary is going to be so good. And one of the rare times we always talk about, well, geez, did the announcers give you any extra incentive to watch a game? Probably not. But in Costas' case, when he was doing those games on MLB Network with Jim Cott and made his comeback after being out of baseball broadcasting and broadcasting in general there for a while, you thought, wow, this guy is just a pleasure to listen to. So it was a shame to see him lose it. And it was unfortunate that he took that position because his mother lived in South Florida. I don't know if she's still around, but she lived in South Florida and would hear the comments. And every now and then you would get some feedback that, hey, Costas' mother is not happy that you're ripping him to shreds, which I think as local announcers and defenders of local honor here, we had no choice but to take shots at the guy because he was raining on the parade, the victory parade of our then Florida Marlins. But I think it's great. I mean, look, would we have any interest in this baseball season as you were watching the Marlins in complete decline now? They're still like the slightest ray, no pun intended, since they play the Rays again today, of hope that they get into the postseason. You're not clinging to any of that, are you?
I mean, last night, like Alcantara was pitching strong. If they could have found a way to get that and play well in the series, okay, they're still within 3 games, fine. Once that game just falls, their offense, have they scored more than 2 runs in the last week? Like, what the
ugly.
fuck?
Yeah.
Like, and like Alcantara falls apart. It's still 4-2. I'm like, okay. I look back. I'm like, it's 5-2. I'm like, what the fuck? 7-2. Look back, 8-2. Like, okay. Like it feels like they've given. Like Schumacher said it in the middle of the goddamn, was it the Nats series or the Padres series, where it's like, yeah, it looks like we're just, going through the motions. It's like if the fucking coach is saying that, like, What the hell? Like,
It is weird to think that as high as we got, thinking that this was really going to be some kind of Cinderella season. That in the end, people always say this. I mean, the baseball purists would point this out. Speaking of purists, Louie, what makes you a purist though? That's a tough concept to put a definition on. Would say that hey, I mean, there's a strong possibility, a distinct possibility that the team ends up several games under 500 for the year. Which, when you look at it overall, 162 games is the ultimate litmus test. You can't fake your way through it. This isn't like that math class where you copied off the redhead girl with the freckles and somehow managed to get a C minus. This is a real test, and 162 games are maybe going to prove out that the Marlins were sub mediocre again, which leaves them where? That would be the question. The tease of being in the pennant chase kind of clouds the actual reality that you have a team that, in all likelihood, is going to be sub 500, and on top of that, is going to be facing next year not looking any more promising than they did going into this season. In fact, you would have an even dimmer view of what their prospects were, would you not? Unless something dramatic changed, which I don't know what that would be.
I
It's
don't
a
know
shame.
what the feelings around the club, because Aang made good moves. I'm not mad at her moves at the break. The guys she got outside of Robertson have actually sort of paid off. But Chisholm is not what they think he is. I don't know if it's moving to center, they're being hurt all the time, but he's not this burgeoning star, at least right now. The rotation is not as loaded as we thought it was. The bullpen is not good. The lineup, like John Birdie, I know you like him. He's a nice guy. Like that guy,
He's okay. He'd be great if he was your utility infielder.
he's a utility guy. He shouldn't be starting. Like when you look at the Stallings guy, they have so many empty positions. It's just fucking like the De La Cruz. Wow, he's playing. No, De La Cruz is a bench guy, and he fills in, and then you're excited to see him. He's not a start. He's batting like third or fourth. It's like what? Like
Jesus Sanchez in that category, maybe too.
Failure. Another minor league dude that's been a failure. Like that's my, like, you had such high hopes, and even if they didn't make the playoffs, I was like, okay, if they can just keep playing fun baseball, but they're playing so bad and so listless. It's like, what positives are you supposed to take into next year? I've lost a lot of my hope and my faith for what the season was. And if they
you're in the marketing department, what are you doing? You're putting Alcantara, you're putting Perez, you're putting Braxton Garrett out there, and trying to promote the fact that you have this dynamic pitching core. What happened to Trevor Rogers? Did that guy just disappear?
It's just done. I mean, he was dreadful.
Done, finished, huh? Okay.
He got hurt. He was dreadful, and he's hurt.
Sixto, you're hearing no mention of Sixto from anybody. It's not like he's waiting in the wings here to make an ascent back into the major leagues. You mentioned a couple of the other prospects that they had in the pitching.
Mayor, what happened to Mayor?
Category.
He got hurt last year. It's been a fucking year. Like, what the fuck?
It's a tough sell, huh? I mean, that's almost worse, than being a scalper used to be at a Inter Miami CF game before they got messy. Remember, people used to mock those guys, right? You would walk by the guy if you were going to the stadium there. The guy's like, hey, I got two. That was that case. That was a case with the Panthers. How many times did you go to a game? Going back a few years ago when it was a foregone conclusion that they were mathematically eliminated in November, and some guy would approach you as you were going up those stairs there, and thinking, did I really just pay $35 to park here? And he would say, hey, I got two. You need tickets? You're thinking, this poor fat fuck is out here in this parking lot. It's going to rain here in a couple of minutes here. And he's stuck with tickets to a Panther game. There's no way he's going to be able to unload them. Might have been, I guess, being a Marlin ticket scalper would have been the worst. But that has to be a challenging job, no? Marlin's marketing department can't be easy. I mean, what are you selling if this thing goes totally south this year? So you know how easily, I mean, the South Florida sports fan, their allegiance can be very, very, very thin in terms of longevity and persistence. As soon as they see that it's time to jump off the bandwagon. In fact, even before those final indications are given, we're usually on to another path, my friend.
Yep.
So we do have the Dolphins getting ready to crank up their season. That's going to be a week from Sunday. And a week from Thursday, the NFL campaign gets underway. So, like 8 days away from National Football League action. Great. I mean, a lot of college football games of intrigue, Lubie, coming up here on the horizon, including, I don't know, how you feeling about your LSU Florida State rematch?
I feel like that's the only game. Like the professor and I were talking about it yesterday. Like it's one of the worst opening. I guess last week was the opening. That really sucked, but it's one of the worst week ones ever. I mean, this card sucks. Like FSU, LSU's the primetime game, and they got lucky because last year that was a game of two unranked teams. So they got lucky that both those teams have improved the way that they have in their top 10. Like none of Clemson, Duke's supposed to be a big game. Clemson's going to rail them. Like Duke is, I guess, improved, but Clemson's also improved. South Carolina, North Carolina, like only one of those teams is ranked, and like North Carolina's like 21. Like I don't know what this weekend is, but it's really annoying because, yeah, I get it. The out of conference schedules are weak compared to like decades ago, but you at least got like 5 or 6 good games, and then there were a few interesting games. Like look at the games. Like Miami's playing Miami of Ohio. Alabama's playing some schmank team. Georgia's playing a schmank team. Ohio State's playing Indiana. Michigan doesn't play anyone for a month. Like, it's really weird how these teams are taking the first 2 to 3 weeks off. Like, it's such a weird, like college football, the first 2-3 weeks was so fun. USC, who's USC playing? Like, it's just weird. Like, these teams are playing, Notre Dame's not playing anyone. And yeah, they'll play teams eventually, but like, the first 2-3 weeks used to be so fun in college football. And we'll watch because we miss football, but look for good games. There's one top 10 matchup. And I don't know if there's any other top 25 matchup the entire weekend. Like no matchup of top. You used to get like 6 top 25 matchups the first weekend. Like I don't understand what schools are doing, but it's sort of abysmal. Like it's really frustrating for me as a guy that could sit for all day Saturday and like watch competitive games to like Ken was talking about Utsa and someone. I'm like, he's like, I know. He's like, that's how bad it is. That you have to look at Utsa versus Houston. Utsa and Houston should be a good from a betting standpoint. I'm like,
I thought Texas San Antonio was an online school. That was like Larry Coker's next job after University of Miami, wasn't it? Did he end up at the University of Texas San Antonio when they first came into existence? Pretty sure that was the case. And they were an online school. They played DeVry University in the season opener, favored by 3 and a hook. Yeah, an ugly slate, I guess.
I mean, there's games, but like to find anything that you're like, oh, outside of
I'd love to see. I mean, can Alabama cover 39.5? It would only be interesting from a point spread standpoint. You know that Nick's going to put it on Middle Tennessee State, so I'd be tempted to lay the 39 and a hook there. You do have Ohio State, as you said, they're going against Indiana. They're on the road against Indiana and favored by 29.5.
Yeah, come on.
Giant point spreads. Michigan 36.5 over East Carolina. The pesky Pirates no longer as pesky as they once were considered. Louis, remember they almost upset the apple cart in 1983. Oh, we had them down by the goal line there, and we really knew that if we couldn't stop them, our season and national championship quest was going to go right out the window. Can still hear Howard talking about that. Remember, Beverly Schnellenberger was horrified. She even threw her hat at one point on the ground. Wow, Beverly doesn't do shit like that. Incredible. All right, Tony Segreto is going to go old school, and then Jason Cole going to be with us later on in this next hour of the program. Glad you guys. Tony's already. Let's take a look at his handsome face here. I got to see Tony.
Okay. I mean, he's always sitting by.
Yeah, all right. Pop him on here. Oh, there he is. All right. Tony. I missed last Wednesday's show because I thought my dog was dead. But
he survived.
Not only that, I mean, he's made somewhat of a revival. I mean, rumors of his death were greatly exaggerated, Tony. The dog was laying on my chest. I swear to God, he was taking his last breath. And the next day, he wasn't in good shape. I mean, he really did. We've been referencing this a lot lately, this Diana Nyad thing. But I think it's the appropriate illustration where she got out of the water there after she swam from Havana. And she's got like a jellyfish on her face. And she stood up and you thought, wow, I mean, this woman needs a standing 8 count. That was Skippy. And lately he's had a little bounce in his step. I mean, I think all of these episodes have taken their toll. He's an older dog. He's probably 15 or 16, maybe even older. We don't know his actual age because for some reason, I don't know why this is. Certain rescue organizations don't want to tell you the truth about the dog. Have you had this experience?
No, I haven't.
They want to tell you the dog's perfectly healthy and, that he's 2 years old and he's bouncing around like a puppy. And then it turns out he's 7. He's got every possible, illness
Well,
that a dog could have. Yeah.
you bring him home and he dies.
His teeth have to be yanked. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you would have expected that more so than he would survive the next 9 years. And so he's still here. But no, he's doing well. Thanks for
What
asking.
kind of dog is he? What kind of dog is he?
They would call this dog a rat terrier mix. It's like, a part like of a Jack Russell line, but not really. And we have 2 of them, actually. The other one's much younger. She's fine, but she doesn't really like to do anything. Skippy was a much more active pup. Let's put it that way. And so he's doing all right. I mean, he's still here. I would have given 0.0 chance that he would still be with us this week, Tony. But we're glad you are.
Yeah, glad I am too.
Yeah.
There's one thing about losing a loved one you adored and things like that. But when you lose an animal, it's a whole different ballgame.
Look, I'm not inclined to cry, Tony, but tears literally were dropping on the floor when I was holding his dog. And I thought, this isn't me. I didn't cry that much. As much as I love my mother and father when they both passed.
Yeah.
I guess I was kind of ready for it. My father died sort of suddenly out of nowhere, but he was almost 90 years old. And my mom, you could kind of see it coming, but it came about very quickly. Fortunately, once the insurmountable terminal illness kicked in, she didn't suffer a lot. So, and thanks to your people at Catholic Health Services, they helped her out a great deal. But the dog. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's the weirdest emotional attachment that you could possibly have.
Ours was put down 2 years ago, and to this day, you mention his name to my wife and we cry.
Yeah. No, I you know me, Tony. You think I'm the ultimate cynic and an emotionless.
You are.
Yeah. A vapid, just uncaring clown. But no, I really, this dog means a lot to me. Let's put it that way. And so it's good that he's doing well. All right. Speaking of dogs, we got some underdogs maybe that we can come up with here. We'll get into a little old school. And a lot of things to discuss with the great Tony Segreto coming up. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Ed Garcia going to join us as well. And people are always asking, hey, where are the great places to watch football? This would be one of them. Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Woo! Do they do a good job? Well, we were talking, we were in a family-owned place yesterday, Gilbert's 17th Street Grill at the Mayo Show. And these family-owned and operated places are terrific. But and people have a negative, they cast aspersions at chains. But what people don't realize about Texas Roadhouse that also helps account for its greatness is that these are actually run by individuals.
Owner-operators, yep.
Yeah. And they take great pride in what they do, just like any family-owned business. So it kind of puts them ahead of everybody else.
But they take great pride in getting the right people to serve you.
Yep.
Yes.
People to do everything else. So it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, no, they're really fantastic. All right, we're coming back with more with Tony Segreto, a little old school in a moment. Now that. Time. 8:01.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305 453-9066.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back, back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor, where are we going this time?
All right, welcome back to the show. We go old school with the great Tony Segreto, iconic broadcaster here, and did it all when I was on the news channels here, NBC, for so many years, and when it was tremendous in sports and news. I do have to recognize a comment here. Damon Hartley on our chat line says Sixto Sanchez is in witness protection.
Isn't the whole team in witness
I
protection?
don't know. I mean, this guy was. We got sucked into the Sixto mania that was taking place that the Marlins were selling a couple of years ago, and we bought it. And a lot of people did. It looked like it was going to be, just like the return of Don Trell or Fernando Mania, and turned out to be very short-lived.
I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so.
I mean, you hate to see that. It's always great. You have the team that's been down at the bottom dwellers for a long period of time. They eventually get somebody that's going to be a star, and there's nothing more fun if you're a baseball fan than seeing a guy that's going out there every fifth day, and you're thinking, my God, like when Matt Harvey was with the Mets there, that one year that he was so sensational. He wasn't able to sustain it, but I happened to be in L.A. for Fernando Mania, and I was here, of course, for Don Trell Mania. And it was great. You couldn't wait. Doing sports coverage here in town. 3 days out, and you were anticipating this guy's next start. But you're well known, Tony, for your stellar with Brian Norcross, who became an international superstar as a result of the hurricane coverage that you guys did on Andrew, all the way back in 1992. Wow, 31 years ago. And so you're familiar with this. I don't know if you're following the news right now with this Idalia that's about to hit supposedly near the Tallahassee area. And it seems like, I mean, it's all the same, right? They assign some person to go out there and like stand in the middle of the ocean and make it look as they have people broadcasting from Tampa, where, I mean, if this is what's happening in Tampa, this is not going to be favorable for the people in Tallahassee.
It's ridiculous. It's just absolutely, how do I put this? NBC6, them alone, are doing a horrible job.
Oh yeah, wow, condemning
horrible
former employers.
Wow.
First of all, the anchors, which one of the anchors claims he's from here.
Yeah,
acts as if he's never been in a hurricane before.
Okay.
The other one from Texas or something, she claims to have never been in a hurricane before. You would think they would have enough sense to read the scripts beforehand and just go through them. It's pouring in Tampa. It's
Yeah, I'm watching some CNN guy in Tampa right now. It doesn't look too favorable there.
No, but it is what it is, and that they make their money that way, and that's what they do. And
big prelude for this landfall, which now has me. I mean, I don't know.
Tallahassee's in the crosshairs, and Tallahassee could get devastated by this. But
it doesn't sound good. All of those Florida State people. It's and supposedly it's going to carry its strength. At some reasonable hurricane category level, like Category 1, all the way to inland. To Georgia.
In North Carolina. And then come back out.
Come back? Like, what the fuck?
And hook around? Is this going to be like a Joe Nedney field goal try?
May come back around, yeah.
Wow, where it boomerangs back and lands in the hand of the holder?
Have you not seen the track?
There's one track. Most of the tracks are out, but there's one track that has it coming back, strengthening and getting to like 160 and coming right at your area. Lighthouse Point.
Great.
Like right through that area, like Pompano, like literally at like 160 miles an hour. It's actually freaking scary.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
That's the hope. Yes.
Well,
all right. We had a tough time. Go ahead, Tony. What were you going to say?
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. I was going to move on here, but and look, we've seen this coverage a zillion times, and you always want to hope that the least amount of damage is inflicted, but this isn't looking too promising here for the Tallahassee area, and that would be my luck, right? The fucking thing would loop back around and hit right in my house. There's always a bullseye on my house.
Yeah,
when
your
they show
house.
the cone of death. Yeah.
Right at your house.
All right, we had just and after a while it got to be just sport. The arguments that we were having last year, Tony, about the Serena Williams retirement tour. You actually convinced yourself that she could win the tournament, which I was more than willing to book your action on that. But she did surprise me. She was facing the number 2 woman in the world who was in incredible decline, and I don't even think is playing tennis anymore. This Cornet, who she beat in the second round last year, Serena, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, how significant those victories were, except that it kept her going, and the crowd was going nuts, and everybody wanted to pay final tribute to Serena, and that's all well understood. I was never that big of a Serena fan because of the way she treated her opponents when she lost, and the way she treated the so-called common people that were around the game that are very dedicated to it. I mean, firing rackets at ball girls and cursing out officials. I just never saw that as really the flattering side of Serena Williams' whole story. And I thought that was more the case of the kind of person she was than this, oh, geez, it's so wonderful, which you bought hook, line, and sinker. Accomplishments, nobody could argue the accomplishments.
Can I hear you do that again?
Oh, it's so wonderful to be here with you, Tony Segreto, and be on your show. I mean, come on, Tony. You weren't buying all that shit. Venus, I always liked from a personality side a lot more. She seemed to not take herself as seriously. She wasn't as extreme in her reactions. She seemed to actually genuinely care about most people, as compared to Serena, who you thought was really just doing that for show. But last night, I don't know if you caught any of that. Did you watch? She was in the U.S. Open. It was either her 23rd or 24th U.S. Open, which is amazing. I mean, the woman turned pro in like 1990, was it 4? I mean, she's been around almost 30 years, 29 years in the game. Amazing that she would still even want to go out there and play. Now, has not been a significant factor in any tournament for a long time. She's won a match here and there. But, I like the fact that she still enjoys playing. But if ever there was an indicator that this should have been it was last night. I don't know if you caught this, but it was almost sad. It was requiem for a heavyweight, my friend.
I saw the highlights, and it was requiem for a heavyweight.
Yeah.
It was just sad. It was just so sad to see a great player like that just hang on too long.
My God. I mean, did you not think of Muhammad Ali?
Oh, yeah.
You were close with the fight doctor, and I'm sure he told you, like he did me, to his grave, man, I mean, I begged him not to take these last few fights.
Yeah.
Begged him.
Why would you play? Why would you play?
Do you I mean, she could have actually, thought that she was in there with some kind of a fighting chance to give a reasonable performance, but
you can't, you how do I put this? You can't change an athlete's mental state.
Yeah.
So that when they're told they can't do something, that's when they say, I can do it. I can do it. And she thought she could do it. And maybe that's the death knell right there.
Yeah. I remember, I'm sure you were at this event, the Arguello Pryor fight at the Orange Bowl. Do you remember they had a walkout bout, what was known as a walkout bout in the business? They don't always do this anymore, but it was fairly common with a lot of boxing promotions back in the day. And they had a walkout bout after the Arguello Pryor fight. Do you remember who was in that fight? Roberto Duran.
Yeah.
A very, rotund Roberto Duran. But here's the thing, to your point about Venus, although I see none of this, and I didn't see it in Duran that night. He got some kind of lackluster decision over a nondescript opponent. And I remember asking a couple of the boxing writers if it had any, significance for his career. He said, yeah, maybe he makes another payday. But he did, after that, go on and win a couple of championships. It wasn't quite the same, ferocious Durand that he was, when he was in his prime. But he won at heavier weights a couple of championships after that. So there was reason for him to stick around, even though it seemed completely unjustified at the time. But with Venus yesterday, I mean, wow.
Wow. I never, she looked like she was out of it.
Yes. I was saying my cleaning lady would have given a better match to Greet Minnan. And the reason I mentioned that, not to demean the athletic prowess of my cleaning lady, I'm sure she's fine. I mean, she hops around the house here pretty well. But she picked up my tennis racket, which was sitting on a little bench here behind me, and asked me what that was. And I thought, as I'm watching this Venus match, that she probably could have beaten Venus.
Yeah,
the way that she was playing. I mean, it's sad. We've seen it a few times. I guess in other disciplines also of entertainment, where a guy just can't sing anymore. I remember seeing the Righteous Brothers when the great Bobby Hatfield was still alive, but he had lost his ability to hit those high notes.
Yeah,
and they were booing him at the Orleans, for God's sake. They were the house band there forever. And, Bill Medley went on to great fame doing duos with that deep voice that he had. But the guy that did the high notes, you've lost that love. He couldn't do it anymore.
Can you do that again, too?
I sound like I'm doing like my Susan Wallman impression. That's Roger Clemens in George's box.
Can I bring up something that's just bugging me to death?
Please do, yes.
ESPN, every day this week and the last 3 days of last week, are harping on this Dak Prescott trade.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
Trey Lance.
Oh, Trey Lance. Yeah, okay.
They're
all over it.
Oh, my God.
But if you were the Cowboys and you could get Trey Lance for a fourth-round pick, you pick him up. I would think almost any team would be willing to take a shot.
It's over and done with. But they're making it like I said, like, oh my God, is this the end of Dak? I
don't know. I mean, who did they have backing them up before that? I don't even know.
For Rush, they had a bunch of schmanks.
No, Cooper.
Oh, they had a guy. He won a couple of games.
No, Will Greer. Will Greer is backing
Cooper Rush and Will Greer were their two backers. Whoa,
yeah.
Scary.
When I saw that Trey Lance was going to be third string, you figured, okay, so somebody probably picked this guy up, right? And at least take a shot, right? You never know. Maybe he can find himself with some other organization, even though the 49ers had given up on him after investing heavily in him. Yeah. Including what? How many first-round picks did they trade to get him? Like three?
Three.
Incredible. Before he played it down, which unfortunately he eventually did do, and they realized the seventh-round pick, who was Mr. Irrelevant last year, was a much better option than Trey Lance turned out to be.
Oh, God.
All right, here's a good option right here. He's going to join us right now by phone, and we mentioned Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Ed Garcia.
He's not wearing. You're not wearing your blue today.
Oh, I am wearing blue today.
Okay.
Countdown is on. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, well, Notre Dame opened last week and they won, and Michigan opens up against who?
East Carolina.
The pesky Pirates, Tony. You remember that game? They almost took the Hurricanes out of their first national championship.
That's right.
I don't think they're as pesky anymore, though.
You never know. They could be a little bit of a surprise, but I'm really looking forward to it. So kickoff is coming right around the corner, so it's going to be a great day. I already got my outfit laid out for Saturday, so we're ready to rock and roll.
Well, you have the outfits laid out starting tomorrow. You got tomorrow. Right. You got the Gators game. Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's a great week. I'm excited. I even have my college or my football draft tomorrow for pro, so it's exciting. The weekends are coming back to life.
Where are you now, Ed?
I'm actually heading north. I'm going to go check in all our roadies and our communities up there in the north. My furthest restaurant is near Daytona. And I just checking in all the friends and family and Texas Roadhouses that are in the way of Italia right now. And so far, everyone is checking in well, but I'm just heading that direction north just to provide support. for our roadies and the families in the communities that way.
Now, are you going to open up as quickly as possible to help all those who need meals and things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do have, obviously you can go to the website. We do have a lot of Texas Roadhouses that are closed today, really kind of in that Big Bend area that they're talking about, Gainesville, probably, and actually through Jacksonville type area. However, we're ready to rock and roll. We have an awesome response team. I mean, and the community obviously is very big and always trying to get us back open as soon as possible so we can provide air conditioning, food for the community. If you need additional support, don't be afraid to reach out to your local Texas Roadhouse, and you'll be surprised what we can do. That is going to be our number one goal. And we may have limited menus because obviously getting our food to our locations and different things like that can always be a little bit of a challenge, but we do what we can. I'll tell you, last year in the Daytona restaurant, we were serving quesadillas, even though it's not on our menu, but we were able to get bread and cheese. And you know what? The community was super happy to just get a hot meal with some French fries and maybe a margarita or two.
Yeah, might need it. The way this thing is shaping up. Hey, we were curious, Ed. With the football season on the horizon, and Tony's always mentioning, and I would think this would be an ideal place. And you're not normally open for lunch, but what's the deal on football Saturdays?
Oh, Saturdays, yes. Probably about 95% of the Texas Roadhouses on Saturday and Sunday are open for lunch. And again, you can always check that out on the website. But what a great spot to come in and enjoy some football. We do have some smaller meals for lunch, but like Tony and you always talk about, what's great about Texas Roadhouse, between the bread, the peanuts, and your two made from scratch sides, you always have a little bit to take home, and it can heat up very, very, very well. And it makes a great midnight snack. So check it out.
Yeah, will do, Ed. Well, listen, you take care. We hope your restaurants are all safe and sound, and we wish you well, and we wish Michigan well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go blue.
Safe travels, Ed. Thanks so much.
All right, sounds good. Ed Garcia, man.
We got
He's doing more. He's doing more than FEMA for people in anticipation of what might happen. I mean, we don't even know what the end result of this is going to be. That's got to be really rough, though. Can you imagine? I mean, you think about, naturally the poor people that are stuck in this, and there likely will be lives lost. There's always that, a fraction of people that said, I'm gonna just sit right here on my boat and ride this thing out. I've done it for 40 years, and then they realize, my God, this thing with storm surge and all of that is some serious business.
I don't think we realize what damage that it can do to a town, to a city.
Yeah, I mean, the restaurant business, unbelievable. Like, I was thinking about that. I was driving home yesterday. I passed a bunch of restaurants that, where I know some of the people that are involved either in ownership or management. And I'm thinking, wow, all these places had to shut down for like a year. They didn't know what the fuck they were going to do.
Yeah.
I know during the
COVID, a lot of them
thing.
didn't open up again.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't open up again.
Yeah, no, tough racket. And something like this really sets them back. Here's Ed Garcia driving right into the eye of the storm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just to take care of people. And that's on the East Coast of Florida he's talking about, not even
That's amazing.
where this thing supposedly is going to hit. All right. How excited are you, Tony? You have the anticipation here. Hurricanes open up. Speaking of hurricanes, talking about the Miami University of Miami Hurricanes. I know you're emotionally attached there. 17-point favorites at home over Miami of Ohio, the other Miami. Some people would say the real Miami, which I would take exception with. I would always consider Miami, Florida. I mean, who names a city in Ohio Miami? I mean, it just.
I'd change the name right away. I'd change it right off the.
Yeah, I mean, come on, drop that already. That's a bunch of shit. But you weren't overly optimistic about the Hurricanes. I don't know that you're overwhelmingly so about the Dolphins either. But what are you thinking going into this week's game with the Hurricanes? What do we need to see? The return of this quarterback to Heisman Trophy form.
Yeah.
And what else, has to happen there?
I want to see three things. I want to see, the defense play well. I want to see them run the ball, which is first and paramount. And then just pass it enough to win. Mm-hmm. Just to get your sea legs wet, so to speak. Just to get, work out the kinks that you didn't work out before, and then as the year progresses, play more. But that's what I want to see. I want to see that. I don't think they'll cover.
You don't think they'll cover to 17, huh?
No.
See, that's the real indicator, Tony. Is that is all that is really of any great significance here, isn't it?
I don't think they'll cover.
We know they're probably going to beat Ohio in a paid for victory by the Hurricanes. How much do you figure? I mean, you're on the board of directors. What kind of check are we writing here? Do we have any idea? Can we reveal that? No, isn't that like a known thing where so and so got like 400,000 to come here and get spanked? What do they pay a patsy? How much you have to pay a patsy to come to town and get shellacked in the season opener? That's the state of college football.
It depends on the patsy.
Yeah.
Depends on how bad you're going to beat them.
17 would indicate that that there's the slightest bit of doubt about this.
I don't think they'll cover, but
okay.
I think they'll play well. I think you don't want to see mistakes. You want to see a different team that was out there last year, because last year's team was paled in comparison to this year's team. What they say. Now, if it's still the same, then I don't know. Then bets off. But I think that this week it'll be.
I think they're going to look good, and I believe that everybody will become convinced that they are national championship material. You'll hear your old buddy Joe Zagacki saying, "This could be the one." Puts us over the top. Look, we finally arrived.
Oh God!
People tend to get a little carried away over this. Now, the most meaningful game on the slate. Go ahead, Tony. What were you going to say?
I think Miami will win. I think Florida State will win.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to next year. Florida
State will win. I think that's going to be just a barn burner, and it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great game, but I see them coming out victorious.
Okay, I mean, last year that was a very exciting game, and we didn't mention this to Mike Norvell when we talked to him last week. That hey, Mike, you did everything in your power to blow that LSU game.
How was he, by the way?
He's a very nice man. It's interesting because earlier this week, I guess Monday night, we had an interview for the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show, which you're a big fan of. And by the way, you're more than welcome to come out to Gulfstream. We want you out there on Friday.
It's just because I was trying to train Ken. I'm sorry it mushroom clouded into whatever it did. He knows I adore him, and I personally invited him multiple times. There's always a seat for Tony Segreto wherever we go. And I'm sorry for whatever I fucking did. I was just because I'm nervous about leaving. And the professor is good, but hasn't done anything like this in a long time. So I apologize profusely in front of the world.
I didn't say anything.
But we want to see, but we want to see you out there on Friday. If you're
welcome, please.
I'll be there Friday.
Okay.
I'll be there Friday.
Thank you.
Where are you tomorrow?
Actually, we're going to be watching our conversation with Dusty May tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right. So, we talked to Dusty May, and Dusty May was very much like Mike Norvell when we interviewed him during the season. Now, he only came into focus this year. Nobody would have known too much about Dusty May before FAU got on that 20-game winning streak.
Yeah.
So your friend and ours, Jim Sarney, was bugging us, saying, "What's wrong with you guys? You don't really cover sports. You don't know anything about sports. You never talk about women. And how could you not mention FAU?" Very, I mean, not that his points aren't well taken, but you understand. I mean, you were in those news briefings, before the newscast came on, and they said, here, we're going to prioritize these stories.
Yes.
And so you go with not necessarily playing the hits, but the things that from an editorial standpoint, you think more people will be interested in, which. Yeah. You probably could talk about the Dolphins 24 hours a day, every day of the year.
I think the Dolphins...
And it would draw more interest than if you were picking apart the final leg of the women's track and field 4x100 relay.
Yes.
I think the Dolphins, if that's what you're going on today,
yeah,
I would say the Dolphins fall down about 5.
Oh, yes, the Heat now. The Heat that you can talk about.
I swear, when it's... What are we, a week away from the opener?
About a week and a half. Yeah.
I just don't see it.
All right.
I just don't see the coverage.
Oh no, people don't.
I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, people seem to have a little bit of a comfort with the idea that they're going to be okay, which is fine. Well, we'll see. Yeah, get back to I mean, Dusty May was very much Norvell-esque in his answers when we had him on during the regular season, and then in a more casual setting, and now I guess that the season is over. He was a very engaging personality. He was the kind of guy you could kind of talk to about anything. Had the same approach. You see how these guys are wired for, success and regiment, and the kind of thing that would make you successful as a coach and in imparting a winning philosophy to athletes. And I think Norvell might be the same kind of guy.
Yeah,
that's very possible.
I see him that way, that kind of way. Nice, but not too nice. Just there.
Norvell. I mean, you would know him better than we do. I mean, you actually have you interacted with Mike Norvell personally?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. And but he seems like a guy who would acquiesce to you and be there at the moment, and then move on.
Yes.
It could be. Yeah. I don't know. I got, very similar feeling in terms of what he had to say in interviews that I did with. He doesn't say anything. He's coach speak. I mean, you understand what his philosophy is. It's generally an optimistic, hey, we can do it type of philosophy. And yet, I mean, in terms of specifics, you're getting a lot of coach speak, which we've been listening to forever, Tony. I mean, there aren't that many coaches that really, dive much below that surface.
I can't think of any. Well, I can't think of any coach off the top of my head that would just break that mold.
I mean, like Schnelly did it. I mean, for me, when I first met him, I was like, yeah, this guy is really. Even though he can spew out coaching cliches, when you were talking to him, he it was very genuine. I thought.
Yeah, he was. But beyond that, I can't think of one guy. Schnelly was good at spinning it any way he wanted it.
Jimmy was the best at that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was. That Jimmy thought he could do the same thing with the Dolphins, and I think that's where his mistake is.
You know what? I don't deem his Dolphin tenure as much of a failure as a lot of people do.
Oh no, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. I think he brought him back to.
He brought talent. He just left him in the wrong hand. I don't get why it was his job to pick his successor. Like that's where they screwed up. Was either he should have coached or they should have picked a real like Wannstedt had just failed in Chicago. Like and he left a stench in Chicago. It was freaking weird that he was allowed to pick Wannstedt. He did. You Chicago fans.
Yeah.
I remember because I was in college. And I had a few friends that were from Chicago, and like Wannstedt was named the coach. And my buddies were like, "Oh my God, Wannstedt! That guy sucks."
I know.
We were shocked. I remember that you were at that press conference, I'm sure, where Jimmy introduced Wannstedt as the future head coach. He was wearing a white shirt, I remember, and they kind of came in the back door, and I remember looking and going, "Wait a minute, that looks like Wannstedt. What's he doing?"
They feel
and everybody liked him, but I mean, to become the head coach after Jimmy seemed like a bit of a stretch.
They feel the same to this day, and it pains me to say it because he's a dear friend and he's like a brother to me.
Yeah,
but they say the same thing about David Shula.
He was guy, but
it's an adage that had some manifestation in truth where because it happened with the Hurricanes when Leonard Hamilton left and they took Perry Clark. He picked him, handpicked him to be a successor. Never let the outgoing coach pick his successor.
Yeah, I don't get that.
No, because
under any circumstances.
First of all, they always pick their friends.
Right.
Yes,
and their friends aren't always as good as they were.
No.
At what your expectation level was.
No, they weren't. No,
for a coach. All right, Tony, we got to run now. We got Jason Cole coming up here. I'm glad you're excited about the football season. Yeah, and I'm glad you are back in the good graces of Lubie. And because he can come across the wrong way, Lubie. He can come across as
text. It wasn't even
very abrasively, saying that he doesn't give a flying one anymore.
I would never do that with Segreto. I adore him. I figure we're family, so you can be honest, and it has nothing to do with him. He can always come if he wants to. It's just the week before was freaking hectic. It was we had a photographer, and that had nothing to do with him. But I was like, look, Ken looked shell shocked, so it was like, let's just, and he's got it now. And whatever happens when I'm not there will be what it is. I know I did my part, and Segreto has a seat every single week at Gulfstream, and is not only hoped to be there, is expected to be there whenever he can find the time.
When do you go away?
I leave a week.
Don't say go away among anybody in our circle of friends.
When do you leave?
When do I leave on my trip? I will be back. I leave Tuesday of next week at night.
Very good.
Very good.
Have
All
a
right.
good time.
All right. We'll see you Friday, Tom.
We love you,
Okay.
By the way, this hurricane has made landfall here, and I believe they have a guy. It says near Keaton Beach. Where is Keaton Beach? Do we have any idea?
What the hell's Keaton Beach?
Keaton Beach. You guys have Tallahassee
Yeah,
geographical
I don't know.
familiarity. Keaton Beach.
I know Panama City. I know Pensacola. I don't know.
They have a guy standing out. It looks wicked. My God.
No.
Oh my God. All right, Tony. Thanks so much, Tony Segreto, ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen,
very
with
much.
us here on a Old School with Tony on a Wednesday. Tomorrow we will have the trivia challenge with Dave Gurgles Gurgley, and then Friday a Degenerate Friday. Mark Lawrence, the Professor, the Greek, and our handicappers should be a lot of fun as well. Later on today we'll be at Even Keel Fish Shack with Mike Mayo. And Mayo was on his game yesterday, man, eating those burgers at Gilbert's. Wow. I tossed the bun and I still have half of this burger left.
I was and I don't even eat that much because I never get. When we're there, I'm so busy worrying about the show that I don't get to eat that much. But
Yeah.
I had a couple wings. I had some of that cod sandwich. That I didn't get in the fight, but I sort of got what it's so funny because I thought about it. I'm like, oh, they put the cheese on like McDonald's. I'm like, but that's not like the filet.
Oh no, that was a disastrous comparison.
Well, because the filet of fish is a schmanky, like that was a big ass piece of fish.
It was giant. There was no comparison. It in no way reminded me of a McDonald's fish sandwich, which you get and you say. I mean, speaking about ordering wrong,
Horrendous.
there were people that liked it, but I just never saw the fascination with either that or the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich.
Well, the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, I actually get. You don't have to like it, obviously, but
no, I mean it's fine, but I just
I wouldn't wait for.
I don't see the mass appeal of that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't wait for hours like some fucking people do.
No.
The McDonald's fish sandwich.
McDonald's fish sandwich was an embarrassment to fish.
Really bad.
People with environmental groups should have been protesting, saying this is a bad representation of the oceans of the world.
But
We're going to call this a fish sandwich.
I didn't even eat that much, and I couldn't eat the rest of the day. How much food was there?
It was a ridiculous amount of food there at Gilbert's.
What do you mean, Beth?
Richie and Beth, that was insane.
Richie was great. Beth, as we're leaving, is like, "Are you guys okay? Do you want me to make you something? Like, make me something. Do you have any food left?" I'm like,
She's unreal. Mayo plays it very coolly, though, like Bernie Madoff did when the investors would say something along the lines of, "Hey, you know what? Is there any chance of drawing on some of that money?" Right now, I would leave it alone.
It's like, well, if you want to, maybe not this. Maybe it's like, dude, they have 30 things. There's no room.
Is there such a thing as a food con man? Because I believe that Mayo is morphing into, fitting into that category. All right. Jason Cole going to join us. We'll talk some NFL in just a moment. Now
The time.
that's 12 o'clock today, Even Keel Fish Shack. Always a great spot. It's 8:35. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Are we all in stable but critical condition? Is that the way all life is, Lubie? In a general, more figurative sense? Would you say you're in stable but critical condition? I believe you are right now.
Probably.
On the threshold of getting married in the early portion of 2021. Don't you think it's a little soon, kid? You barely noticed woman. What are you doing?
We've been together 4 years.
Well, I guess you know enough.
How much longer do you want her to put up with me?
Is it you that's pushing for this?
It's equal. We're both very happy and in love. It's very gross.
Oh, my God. I mean, it's a foreign concept. You have to understand where I'm coming from. 0 for 2 with a walk. And, right now I think I got a 3-2 count in marriage number 3. But, and only because of the benefit of a really poor call on a ball that was clearly right down the middle of the plate. One of those Angel Hernandez calls. Get out of here.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
If you love the smell of pigskin in the morning, like a lot of us do, then you're certainly happy that we're on the precipice here of the college football season. We had week 0, and we're into week 1, and the NFL regular season is about, a little over a week away. Joining us right now, the best of the best when it comes to any kind of NFL discussion, and that would be our good friend Jason Cole, Outkick.com is where you'll find his work, Dynamite on Twitter, and we welcome him to the show. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Defo?
I'm good. You know what? I didn't make as much of this, I guess, as some of the debate shows. This Trey Lance deal, which Tony Segreto just brought up. That's all anybody seems to be talking about. Although, it seemed fairly straightforward, right? San Francisco looking to get out of their losses there with Trey Lance. They invested heavily in him. They didn't think he could do the job, so they salvage what they can, get rid of whatever money's on the books with him, and acquire a 4th-round pick. And if you're the Dallas Cowboys, why wouldn't you take a shot on this guy? What did you think of it? Is there more being said about this than needs to be? And obviously, there are implications there that they're unhappy with Dak, whatever. But what do you make of the whole Trey Lance situation?
Well, I mean, I think it's the splash of them having traded a total, basically used a total of 3 first-round picks to go get Trey Lance and then give up on him when he's only made 100 throws in his career to this point, is shocking, and basically only 2 seasons. But they found out in a hurry that he's got some serious issues playing-wise and technical issues that are really hard to fix for a team that's trying to compete. The other thing is that they're going with a more traditional drop-back style of passer, and so you have to run 2 different offenses. If Trey Lance is your quarterback, you have to run either one that works for him where you're running a lot, or you have to use one that works for a guy like Brock Purdy / Sam Darnold. And it just doesn't gel, along with the fact that he's just got, he's got a ton of issues, and he has not played regularly. To me, this is a call for, and I wrote this, you need to have a developmental league where this guy can get 3 or 4 games in the off season of action, where he throws a bunch of balls, because he just hasn't. He only threw 318 in college, and now Dallas has the same problem as San Francisco. They're a competitive team trying to find a way to get this guy some experience at a time where they don't have any part of their season to give away to a young player. So I don't know how he's going to get any better with Cowboys. It sounds neat to say, he'll push Dak Prescott. And it's clear that the Cowboys are pushing Dak Prescott as hard as they possibly can to get as much as they can out of him between now and next year when his contract is up. But Trey Lance really isn't a threat, in my view. That's much ado about nothing. If they're going to go get another quarterback, they're going to be signing a guy who's actually played a lot.
Oh, it's interesting because a lot of the time when these moves fail, especially when you trade overall 3 first-round picks to go up to number 3, and then the guy doesn't even start half a year in like 3 years, you would hear the staff, the execs be lambasted. But the thing is, the Niners elsewhere have drafted extremely well. They're probably a top 3 or 4 roster in all of the league. They're probably a top 2 or 3 team in all of the league. And even with injuries, almost found their way into the Super Bowl last year at quarterback. If you found your quarterback at the end of the draft, and Purdy does end up being the guy we saw for a lot of last season, is it a wash in a sense? Yeah, you did lose that trade, but you still found your guy in the end.
It sort of is, because Purdy could be terrific. I mean, he was for half the season, and I've watched that kid play up close and personal 3 times. He's special. Yeah, he really is. He's different, but he's also small.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if he's going to hold up physically. I mean, he didn't hold up physically last year when he got hit. Now, it was an awkward, different kind of hit, and any quarterback, whether they're 6'5" or 5'11", which is he's closer to 5'11", any quarterback probably would have gotten hurt on that play. But the fact that he's not a very big guy leads you to believe there's more of this to come, possibly. So we'll see. And maybe it's a wash, but it's still hard to swallow that they gave up 3 first-round picks for a guy who was gone in essentially less than in 2 years.
Yeah.
He was that bad and got hurt and was unlucky, and everything else that went with Trey Lance, because he was really inaccurate. But he was gone in basically 2 years. That is a black mark for your franchise and for your stewardship as a head coach. Kyle Shanahan has to live with that. He can, yes. You're not firing that guy. He's a great coach, and they have a great roster everywhere else. But this was a major, major mistake.
No doubt, colossal error, and one of those ones, in certain circumstances can, cast a pall over a franchise for a long period of time. All right, while we're on the subject of quarterbacks here with Jason Cole of Outkick.com, the rookie quarterbacks that were highly touted, in all of the 3 of the top 4 picks, rookie quarterbacks. Do you see any of them in favorable situations? Because it seems like Carolina's doomed there with Bryce Young to be not a very good team this year. C.J. Stroud, people are wondering, what he's going to do, if he's going to have the ability to hold up and take a lousy Texans team to any kind of growth. And Richardson, Lubie hates Richardson. Thinks that this is the biggest mistake in the history of NFL drafting.
I think he's raw, and he's going to take a couple years.
He thinks he's going to eclipse Jamarcus Russell as one of the biggest busts in draft history.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I never said that. Why does he do that?
I don't know. I had to use some kind of reference here, but
you continue to work with him.
That is true.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? Do any of these guys have a shot to make an impression, a favorable one?
Claiming that Defo is misquoting you.
Maybe a slight exaggeration of what he actually said.
Yeah, you're feigning ignorance over his
a loose interpretation of his actual thought.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, please, this is 40-something years of this. Okay,
yeah,
we know how this works.
You know what you're going to get, Jason.
Yes. Yeah. This is on you, Lubie. It's definitely on you. Okay, so look, if they were generally teams that are really good don't do this at quarterback, right?
Sure.
So they were walking into bad teams anyways, and teams that end up with the number 1 pick were there for a reason. So yeah, none of these guys are walking into great situations in terms of trying to compete this year. I do think that both Carolina and Indianapolis understand the process. Carolina, through their head coach, and Indianapolis, because they've done it a couple of times. You know, they did it with Peyton Manning. They did it with Andrew Luck. How you make a franchise quarterback better. Now, that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to do it. Indianapolis didn't have a whole lot of luck with Jeff George, but certainly, again, with Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, they did a good job of developing those guys as franchise quarterbacks. They got unlucky with Andrew Luck and his injury situation. That's why he quit. But I like those situations a lot better than Houston, where I think, but I don't think ownership is very strong in Houston and may not understand, okay, we went and got this guy. He has some fairly serious flaws because he comes out of that Urban Meyer offense at Ohio State. It wasn't coached by Urban Meyer necessarily, but that's an Urban Meyer offense, which has not translated well to the NFL. We're going to need to give him help and make him transition. I'm dubious about that one. I am also, yes, dubious about Anthony Richardson because that guy only made 393 throws. And so I posted a column yesterday. It's actually on the 33rd team. I posted a column in which I wrote about the fact that Anthony Richardson and Trey Lance are among 12 quarterbacks who've been drafted in the first round since 1990. That's when juniors started to get drafted. So there have been 12 quarterbacks in this group who threw less than 600 passes at the college level. Of those 12 guys, it includes Alex Smith, it includes Michael Vick, it includes guys like Jim Druckenmiller and Keith Schuler. None of those 12 guys have ever led their team to a Super Bowl. And you know, Anthony Richardson hasn't had a chance yet, so it's a little unfair to Anthony Richardson. But the careers of those 12 guys have not been what the team certainly expected them to be. And guys who had more than 600 pass attempts generally were much better. I think there's 74 guys in that group. 14 of them led their teams to a Super Bowl. So there's something to be said for experience. And Anthony Richardson has a lot to overcome.
All right, one more thing. As we have the season, a week from tomorrow, gets underway with the initial Thursday night outing. There's that Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. We know the usual suspects, the contenders there. Some people would say maybe Jacksonville is a contender this year. Is there a somewhat surprise team that Jason Cole is zeroed in on who may actually have the possibility of winning it all?
Winning it all? That's a surprise.
I mean, are the Saints going to be a factor in the NFC? Jacksonville certainly would be a surprise.
Jacksonville's not going to be a surprise. I'll disagree with you on that one because nobody in that division's any good.
Yeah,
okay. They're going to win that division. They're going to win 11 games and pretty easily, maybe 12. And they could even if they really dominate that division, they could win 13, 14 games. Now I doubt that, but I expect them to win 11 or 12 games and easily win that division and be a factor, and they'll be in the playoffs, right? I think they're missing something. They're just not quite there, especially with competition at quarterback in the AFC. I don't know if there's a team. There are a bunch of good teams that I think, okay, if things fall into place, it can be interesting. New England is like that. They have a solid base. They just don't have a lot of stars. They could be a 7-win team. They could be an 11-win team. I still don't think they're enough of a contender because I just don't think they're good enough at quarterback. The NFC is where you say, okay, you could have a flawed team get through the whole thing. And because the competition at quarterback is not so great. And so I would say Detroit, as much as they're going to kind of dominate that division, everybody's in love with Detroit. They're really flawed. But yeah, they could end up in the Super Bowl. And boy, would that be fun if Dan Campbell was coaching in the Super Bowl. Like that was
in Las Vegas too.
Oh my God.
Dan Campbell in Las Vegas. I mean, you might as well. Did you see him like have the Siegfried and Roy Tigers by his side? Yeah, they'd be on. The Tigers like would just like as he walked up and down the sideline, they would walk with him in unison. It would just
he might even put one in a headlock.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Like, and they would just be completely. They would just move at his pace. Like it would be completely obedient to him.
Be tremendous.
Yeah, and then like the trapeze people over the top. Right, like, it would be such a show if Dan Campbell was in the Super Bowl. I mean, like that. That's spectacular to me.
A perfect thing too, because all of those guys that got suspended could gamble their brains out on the
exactly.
on the game. And be able to get maybe some inside information if you followed them into the line. It's
and that's how half of them, like, half those guys will be like at halftime instead of in the meeting they'll be at the bookie. Placing their halftime bet, stuff like that.
I mean, in the spirit of Alex Karras, unbelievable. This team.
Yes, I know it'd be fantastic. How many? Let me go back to this. This is along the lines of Manny Mota. How many people know about Alex Karras? More than knew Manny Mota, or less than?
Oh, I would say more than Mota because of
gambling stuff, because
his acting career. Sure,
and then the acting.
Blazing Saddles.
Definitely.
You know, when he hit the horse, you couldn't forget that. They probably know more from that than they do from his football playing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. They know more about it from his acting career.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he was a great player. I mean, was he Hall of Fame caliber, Karras? Did he make the Hall of Fame? I guess he was disgraced with Horning, with the gambling thing.
Yeah, that has hurt him. But, he was a caliber of a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, I would think so.
I've heard. I can't say that. I saw that myself. I mean, I was alive. But
yeah. I mean, I unfortunately, in terms of chronology, did see Alex Karras play. So, but I was there when Sammy Baugh suited it up. I think for the first time.
You were doing interviews with Sid Luckman. About how you're a big quarterback.
I asked about what it was like to be the leading Jewish quarterback. Yes.
Sid Luckman. Yeah, Sid Luckman was like
oh my God.
The original loop. I didn't say that.
I think I was in shul with Sid Luckman.
I'm schwitzing. This is what my mother in New York back in my mother in New York. She's listening to you. I interviewed Luckman one time in he had a place in near where was it? It was in Miami Beach.
Yeah.
But it was near what's that little tiny community that has the golf course? Why am I forgetting that right
Indian
now?
Creek?
Indian Creek?
No, it was north. It was near the Broward County border.
Sunny Isles?
Right there on the.
I don't know.
Yeah, you got us. And we only live here, but we have no idea.
Yeah, right.
Nobody goes to Dade County anymore. Anyway, Jason.
Yeah, it's the
foreign turf.
Big shop. It's the big shopping center with the golf course right next to it. I'm just drawing a blank on it right now, but I went to his condo right there, and God, what a incredibly nice man he was. Like just like salt of the earth, and he gave me all these tchotchkes when I was done. Right, like all this, these crappy pens and like
a dreidel.
It was just all this
with a leather helmet on it.
Like there was, it was. Oh, I wish it was a leather helmet. That would have been collector's item. None of this stuff was like that.
Luckman was great.
That he had gathered from sales. He was awesome.
He's in that very thin book of great Jewish athletes. All right. Always a pleasure, Jason. Outkick.com. And you'll find a column very relevant to our conveation today. Talking
I switched over, just so you know, I've switched over to working for the 33rd team. With,
yeah? Okay.
Mike Tannenbaum and Joe Banner and those guys.
Oh, okay.
Very nice, man. No one has taken more advantage of free agency than you.
Your movement's amazing.
It's you and Neil O'Donnell. I'm telling you. Unbelievable.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Always a pleasure.
All right, cool, man.
All right, guys. Be good. Thanks.
Another new affiliation?
I almost asked him are you still without Kick? Because it's been a couple years, and knowing Coleman, there's every like year to 2 years, I don't know if he gets antsy or he just can feel the tide.
It's Dion, man.
I meant
The
to ask you.
Wanderer.
It's so funny. I didn't because it was like, nah, he's been. I mean, it hasn't been that long, has it?
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
People, always thought that it was a negative that I was on so many stations, but it was almost always in conjunction with getting a better and higher paying job. So, his moving on, I think, is to be applauded. I would imagine that he was very much in hot demand. Jason Cole. All right, we have to run. We have stuff to do. We'll catch you 12 o'clock on South Florida Live. Let's Eat South Florida. Mike Mayo Lunchbox from Even Keel Fish Shack, Lauderdale by the Sea. Come on out. Try some of their stuff. It's absolutely outstanding. And we will see you tomorrow with a Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. And then a Degenerate Friday on Friday. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. As we leave, you know that.
The time.
It's
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my